Welcome to Reparenting Daily, your free daily guide for inner child healing and repairing the relationship with yourself. This podcast helps you establish a consistent reparenting routine and is divided into 3 sections. The first is the daily reading, the second is a discussion of the reading, followed by suggested journal prompts, and the last section is peaceful binaural beats meditation for closing. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from whenever and wherever you're joining us. I'm so glad that you could join us on this journey of self-expansion. If this is your first time here, welcome. As a celebration of passing episode 700, I've opened a free membership tier for the Patreon community so you can access additional resources and join the weekly Zoom calls for free. I know there's a lot going on in the world right now and that so many people are really struggling. My hope here is to still encourage others to continue the work on reparenting and to offer a free community where people can come together and do that. I'd also like to thank all of you who've been along on the journey so far. Just as a reminder, this is a free podcast, but you can support the project by purchasing the Reparenting Daily Journal, where you can follow us along all year. This 333-page journal gives you extra insight and resources for each week, and also provides space for you to keep your notes. Another way to support the podcast is to purchase the Fairy Tales for Reparenting series, volumes 1 through 3. This collection organizes famous and obscure fairy tales from around the world into the 3 phases of the hero's journey. While you might think that fairy tales are for kids, I'd like to challenge you. These stories contain profound truths and lessons carried down over millennia that we can use in our reparenting journey. It's a fun way to reconnect with your inner child. Each volume comprises 10 fairy tales. They include an analysis section to help you dive deeper into the message, as well as journal prompts and space to reflect on the story's meaning in your life. Lastly, you can also support the project by taking a paid Patreon subscription, by purchasing the books on the website, or by donating via Buy Me a Coffee. You can find all this information on the Support Us section of the website. So now, with these announcements out of the way, let's dive into today's practice. Today, we're going to be listening to a portion of a lecture, or a video, I should say, entitled You're Only as Good as Your Routines by Orion Taraban. So he's a psychologist PhD who has many YouTube videos. And he has a quite economical and interesting way of looking at relationships, human connection. And so I thought that this lecture is a very good topic to include for the weekly theme. And by the way, we're in April, and the theme for this month is developing a structure and discipline. We're in week 2, and the theme for this week is building supportive routines. So in this video, he talks about you're only as good as your routines. Your routines are the habits that you keep to yourself, the things that go by on the subconscious automatic programming. So it's not something that you have to put effort in, and they actually define your identity. And so developing good routines and correcting the faulty ones that are actually ego dystonic, so taking you away from who you want to be, is such an important part of this month, April, where we're focusing on developing structure and discipline. Clean up your routines, and you will see the benefits flow 1,000-fold. So without further ado, let's listen to Orion Taraban. I will not have a reflection section for today, but I encourage you to check out the link in the show notes to listen to the lecture in its entirety, as well as some of his other content. Enjoy.
I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psych Hacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is you're only as good as your routines. This episode was inspired by my recent travels in Japan. Something about me is I'm constantly in the process of experimentation, and I've recently been experimenting with new ways of living. And part of this experiment was to take a month off, which I haven't done since I started working over 20 years ago, and spend some time living like a local in Japan. I visited Japan many years ago, and I loved it. It's an enchanting place, and in my opinion, it's one of the best cultures that exists on the planet today. So I wanted to see what it would be like to spend an extended period of time there. And on the whole, I had a fantastic time. However, as the month went on, I found my mood beginning to deteriorate. And this was surprising to me, as I was ostensibly on holiday, doing whatever it was that I wanted to do whenever I wanted to do it. I was having new experiences and eating great food and generally having fun. But I frankly wasn't feeling as well inside of myself as I do when I'm back home living my little day-to-day life. And that's when it kind of clicked for me. And I realized that a lot of my sense of self, a lot of my emotional regulation, a lot of my self-esteem, a lot of my happiness and satisfaction and joy actually come from the structure I have created over the years and the routines that I've cultivated in my daily life. Like, I already knew this intellectually, but this trip really helped me understand this more deeply on an emotional level. And this kind of makes sense because as an entrepreneur, I've been able to custom tailor nearly every aspect of my life over the years to my personal preference. So my day-to-day life really works for me. Because I was moving around from place to place in Japan, I didn't have consistent access to a gym, so my exercise routines fell off. And because I was staying in short-term rentals, I didn't have access to a good kitchen, so I wasn't cooking my own meals. And because I was in a country where I didn't speak the native language, it was much more difficult for me to make connections with the people I was meeting. So I wasn't supported by my friends and confidants. And because the constant travel demanded that I be at certain places at certain times, my sleep-wake cycles were disrupted. So I wasn't feeling as rested and focused as I usually do. It might sound boring, but in my day-to-day life, I often do the same exact thing every single day. I wake up at the same time every day. I make the same breakfast every day. I start work at the same time every day. Not because anyone is telling me I have to be anywhere at any given time. That might actually be easier to maintain, but because I'm telling myself where I need to be at any given moment of the day. And this consistency kind of helps me stay in the zone. It allows me to dependably perform at a very high level day after day. I also noticed that after 2 weeks, I really started to miss my work. This is because I don't really think of my work as a job. Yeah, it's the primary source of my income, but it also gives me so much fulfillment, and it provides me with meaning and connection and inspiration, and it's intellectually stimulating and emotionally rewarding. I usually feel better at the end of my workday than I do at the beginning of it. That's the truth. I don't feel like I need to take time away from my work any more than I feel like I need to take time away from fulfillment, connection, and stimulation. In many respects, I might need that work more than that work needs me. So what's the upshot here? Well, after kind of patting myself on the back for making good choices with respect to my lifestyle and my line of work, I had to come to grips with the fact that a lot of my satisfaction and performance had less to do with me, like with factors that inhere in myself, like intelligence or creativity or what have you, and more to do with the structures in which I routinely find myself. Basic stuff like sleeping, eating, exercising, sex, and connection. These things regulate my emotion and clarify my thinking more than I think I previously appreciated. It's not like I had some kind of meltdown or breakdown when they were disrupted, but the change in me wrought by their disruption was not insignificant. And it only took about 3 weeks for me to start to feel the negative effects of that disruption. Now, before I go any further, if you're liking what you're hearing, please consider sending this episode to someone who might benefit from its message, because it's word of mouth referrals like this that really help to make the channel grow. And you can also hit the thanks button and tip me in proportion to the value you feel you've received from this episode. I really depend on your support and your donations because it makes everything here happen. I really thank you. Now, all of this made me think of the millions of men out there who are struggling with depression, struggling with low self-esteem and purposelessness and dejection, men who just feel shitty in their own subjective experience. And I thought, wow, if I don't feel great when I deviate from my routines for like 2 weeks, how would it feel to deviate from my routines for years? How would it feel not to have a structure to begin with? And I think it would feel a lot like depression, which I experienced very intensely when I was younger and my life was a mess. I think there's a connection there. It's like, of course, how can anyone feel good inside themselves when they are not supported by these structures, these routines? I just don't think it's really possible for the vast majority of people. I don't think we're like hardwired to be able to do that. My dudes, you are only as good as your routines allow you to be. What do you do every single day? Tell me what you do repeatedly, and I'll tell you how happy you probably are. These things are more responsible for your quality of life than you likely give them credit for. And if your depression leads you to contact a therapist, and that person doesn't ask you about your sleep and your nutrition and your exercise and your relationships and your work and your sex life, then you're not really talking to a therapist. You're talking to a drug dealer, and that's exactly the solution they're going to offer you. As I discussed in a previous episode, it's important to rule out the confounds. If you have all of these things dialed in and taken care of, and you're still not feeling very hot, then there might be other things to consider. But why not rule out the things that we know for a fact significantly impact mood and cognition first? Like things that, frankly, you may not need to pay a therapist for before you hire the services of a professional. Like, how could that be bad for you? A lot of people, especially young people, and especially young men, have difficulties with the idea of structure. They only view it in its restrictive attribute, like a cage or a cell. The best model I have for structure is a skeleton. Without a skeleton, you're just a fucking puddle on the floor. You're not going to move, and you're not going to get anywhere. It's your structure, your skeletal system that allows you to stand upright and that creates the opportunity for locomotion, for movement in your life. Without that structure, you're a soft bag of flesh wriggling on the floor. So get your routines down, gentlemen. Channel your inner postman and do it in spite of your feelings. Do this and your habits will eventually move you forward when you're finding it hard to carry on. Support the habit so the habit can support you. It might be hard at the beginning, but it's probably hard anyway, so what do you have to lose? What do you think? Does this fit with your own experience? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've gotten this far, you might as well like this episode and subscribe to this channel. You may also consider becoming a channel member with perks like the priority review of comments or booking a paid consultation. As always, thank you for listening.
Welcome back. Now, this is the third and final section of the daily podcast. This is your silent meditation. Please find a place where you can be comfortable and undisturbed. where you can relax and spend some time with yourself for the next 10 minutes. You can choose to be sitting, standing, lying down, or in whatever position makes you most comfortable today. Just take some time to listen to yourself. Next, be sure that you're taking time to be with your breath and to connect more fully with your body. Don't be disturbed or overwhelmed by your thoughts. Simply allow them to pass. Just observe them. Do not engage with your thoughts. Only be mindful of them passing, as if they are leaves drifting down top of a river. Use this time to connect with yourself, whatever time of day you are listening to this. Namaste.